the studio at the Connecticut School of Broadcasting in Charlotte. This is Adrian Brown with As the Buckle Turns, episode 17. What's going on, Bucklers? I know you probably missed me last week, but, duty calls with family issues and things like that, and plus I'm getting down to the wire here, about to graduate in January. Got a lot of things on my plate these days, so I'm trying to balance it all out, but still trying to make sure I record this show, because I enjoy doing it, and I believe a lot of you who listen to it are enjoying it. So, and speaking of listening to it, those of you who are tuning into this for the first time, just to let you know, you can find the show on Spreaker, iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Castbox. The audio goes to YouTube, social media like Tumblr, Facebook. There's a Facebook page for that. Like it. And you've got limited episodes on SoundCloud and Podbean. So wherever you listen at, please, like, subscribe, follow, give a good 5-star review. Helps things out. Let's help get this out a little bit further. I appreciate the core audience that I do have, but let's get this out to a few more people who may not have heard it yet. So, I can tell a lot of you probably sending this out to some people for, a listen or something like that. And some people are remaining. I might not be everybody's cup of tea, but that's just what it's always going to be in a situation like this and in any type of media like this. But I appreciate everybody that's giving me some support here and there, giving me suggestions and things like that. And I'll always appreciate that. We're all constantly in this together, and you all prove that to me every single time I say that, because you're remaining, you're sharing and everything. I appreciate all of it. It's always going to be completely humbling, and I will always put you guys over for doing that. So before I get into the episode for today, there's somebody I want you guys to listen to real quick that'll sum up what I really wanted to talk about real quick today. It's probably not going to be the longest of episodes, but you know how it goes. The stream of consciousness gets a hold of me, and we just end up seeing where it goes. Sometimes it may go 30 minutes, sometimes it may go an hour these days. But anyway, so real quickly, this may be a little bit of nostalgia for some of you, but right now, Vince McMahon, take it away.
It has been said that anything can happen here in the World Wrestling Federation, but now more than ever, truer words have never been spoken. This is a conscious effort on our part to open the creative envelope, so to speak, in order to entertain you in a more contemporary manner. Even though we call ourselves sports entertainment because of the athleticism involved, the key word in that phrase is entertainment. The WWE extends far beyond the strict confines of sports presentation into the wide-open environment of broad-based entertainment. We borrow from such program niches like soap operas, like The Days of Our Lives, or music videos such as those on MTV, daytime talk shows like Jerry Springer and others, cartoons like The King of the Hill on Fox, sitcoms like Seinfeld, and other widely accepted forms of television entertainment. We in the WWE think that you, the audience, are, quite frankly, tired of having your intelligence insulted. We also think that you're tired of the same old simplistic theory of good guys versus bad guys. Surely the era of the superhero who urge you to say your prayers and take your vitamins is definitely passé. Therefore, we've embarked upon a far more innovative and contemporary creative campaign that is far more invigorating and extemporaneous than ever before. However, due to the live nature of Raw and the War Zone, we encourage some degree of parental discretion as it relates to the younger audience allowed to stay up late. Other WWE programs on USA, such as Saturday Morning Live Wire and Sunday Morning Superstars, where there's a 40% increase in the younger audience, obviously, however, need no such discretion. We are responsible television producers who work hard to bring you this outrageous, wacky, wonderful world known as the WWE. Through some 50 years, the World Wrestling Federation has been an entertainment mainstay here in North America and all over the world. One of the reasons for that longevity is as the times have changed, so have we. I'm happy to say that this new, vibrant, creative direction has resulted in a huge increase in television viewership, for which we thank USA Network and TSN for allowing us to have the creative freedom, but most especially, we would like to thank you for watching. Raw and the War Zone are definitely the cure for the common show.
Most of you know that is the clip that probably launched the Attitude Era for good. Vince McMahon goes on television and basically bears his soul and bears the business in a way that probably no other promoter or owner or anything like that in the history of the business had ever done. And he just laid it all out there in that, we're tired. You're probably tired of your intelligence being insulted. Even though this is athleticism on display, we still borrow from things outside of athleticism. We borrow from things in the realm of entertainment. He let you know what it was. And by pulling that curtain back and doing that, I think it was just the smartest business move possible because it drew people in even more. A lot of people like to believe that the more you pull back the curtain, the more it'll hurt your business, especially the business of sports entertainment. But it depends on how it's done, because the way they ended up doing it during the Attitude Era, the way they did it to the point in which they put it so over the top that you knew that a lot of people already knew what it was. But at the same time, Russo, Ferrara, and McMahon, they put it out there to the point that it kept it in the confines of letting you know we still understand that this is television. And the fact that it's on television, it needs to be episodic. It needs to have great characters. And above all else, considering the climate of television and things at that time, it needed to be a little bit edgy. Gone were the days, as Vince said in that promo, were the days of the superhero. Gone were the days of simply black and white characters. Good guy versus bad guy. And this piggybacks off of what I've been talking about the last couple of episodes. It's ironic. Let's not even say it's ironic, because a lot of times everything I end up talking about, it ends up being, it all ends up tying together a lot of times. I don't understand how I do that, but I guess that should let me know that I'm doing the right thing, that I'm talking about the right things, I'm hitting on the right subjects, and which is why I wanted to keep this whole thing topical. Because if you listen to these episodes in a row, you'll understand when I get to this point right here about what's been going on, especially in the WWE. And I will always appreciate that era, because I understand a lot of times that we can look at it as fans who were part of that era, from the moment of its inception. We can have a tendency to look at it through rose-colored glasses, as like some of the haters like to call it. But as always, what do we do here? The tagline of this is, let's be honest. I don't care how irreverent and how ridiculous it seemed, some of the angles and things like that seem. You can't call something bad, really, if it made that much money, if it drew that many people in. Because honestly, if you were able to produce that type of ratings, if you were able to produce that type of money, bring in people from all walks of life, people that never cared about wrestling in their entire life, people that, and from my childhood, that era of wrestling from both shows now brought in people that used to mock me for liking professional wrestling. Why? Because reality sells probably more than anything. And no matter what happens, the more real something seems, the more people get into it, because eventually somebody can relate to something on that show. I don't care how, even if something's fictional, there will always be something real about it, even a fictional show. Like, I constantly bring up things like The Walking Dead. Like, there's like interpersonal conflict on that show. Leadership and, alphas and, defining, conflicting personalities. And, it can you can probably relate to things like that in the workplace. A lot of people can probably see that even in a fictional show. Because when good character development is had, you'll always be able to find something that you can attach to about a certain character. Heck, or even more. But a lot of times, you'll be able to attach yourself to at least one person on any successful show. Which is why I always said, a good television show is only as good, not just as the writing, but as the characters that are written for. Compelling characters will always make better television. And honestly, the more real the characters seem, the more real the storylines can be. And the more real the storylines are, the more people will be able to relate to them. And the reason I brought this topic up today, and I entitled this episode this, is because most of you probably heard by now, off one of the previous Monday Night Raws, there was I made a big deal about how Dean Ambrose hadn't said but so much before he made his revelations to Seth Rollins about why he did what he did, as far as him turning on him the night Roman announced he had cancer. So fast forward to 2 weeks later, in this past episode of Raw, a lot of people were upset about a specific line that was said in that promo. This particular line right here.
You know what the saying goes, what goes around comes back around on you. And it's come back around on us in a big way, and now we're all gonna get what we deserve. I mean, look at Roman. For Roman's part, for what Roman did in the Shield, he has to answer to the man upstairs. And what's worse, you have to answer to me.
The line where he says Roman will have to answer to the man upstairs. Now, it didn't necessarily get like the worst reaction from the crowd, but you could hear some groans. But at the same time, it wasn't like a nuclear heat line that made the people absolutely lose their minds in the audience. The issue with that line, I believe a lot of people have brought forth, is that I believe they believe it hit too close to home and it was too real. But again, if you're not able to take a simple line like that, and because that's a real life situation, I can understand where some people will have little reservations about certain things. But the issue what ended up happening was a lot of people, it ended up being a divide online, especially on Twitter. Like I said, Twitter can go either way when it comes to discussion on anything. And there seemed to be it was like two different camps. It's like, that was despicable, whoever wrote that line for Dean, or if Dean went into business for himself, that was wrong on his part for him to say such a thing. And then there's the polar opposite crowd that had no issue with it. And the main issue that they brought up when replying to the people who didn't like it was, you guys would not have survived the Attitude Era. And I immediately, like I said, I didn't watch the episode. I only watched the highlights, but it's like I only watched the highlights after I logged onto my Twitter account, and I just saw my feed full of all this Attitude Era slander. And it really kind of hit close to home. And then it's like if we as fans of it can look at it through rose-colored glasses, I mean, let's be honest here. The people who all of a sudden now try to go back in hindsight based off of situations that happened this past Monday, they look at it through brown-colored glasses, if you know exactly what I mean here. Because I understand it probably struck a little bit of a nerve, but again, that was the point. That was the point Vince wanted to make. We have an issue these days about with the show feeling so cartoony now and so forced and so scripted. So they decided to go somewhere else with it. And then, again, as soon as you get something different, as soon as you get something edgy, all of a sudden there's a whole lot of complaining. Now, I understand, like I said, the Empire, there are a lot of them I'm friends with, on Twitter now. I have a lot of Roman Empire followers now because, I'm, like I said, I rep the guy. I will always defend him. And I didn't want to make the mistake and go off on some of those, because some of those people from the Empire, let's be honest here, they were some of the main ones crapping on the Attitude Era. And I really legitimately had to log off, or I was going to lose a lot of followers, because I'm trying to build my brand up here as far as this podcast goes, and as far as a wrestling talker. I'm not trying to get famous or anything like that. Like I said, if it goes there, it just goes there. But, because I have to accept that not everybody's going to agree with my opinion, which is something the more prominent wrestling talkers on here won't say. I have no issue with that. Even the people that agree with me on certain wrestlers, they're not going to agree with me on everything, and that's fine. I have no issue with that. But here's the thing. Yes, the Attitude Era had its cringe moments. Yes, the wrestling wasn't necessarily up to par as a lot of people say this era right here is. This is what I call the wrestling era, because it's not promo heavy or character heavy. It's not, super television ratings heavy. It's about going out putting on a show, basically. This is the wrestling era. The Attitude Era was the entertainment era. It was the, it was the ratings era. It was the crowdsourcing era, if you will, pre-social media, pre-internet taking this over. Meltzer was still around, Keller was still around, but still, at the same time, you didn't have everybody with an opinion and a Twitter account and 140 characters worth of opinion all the time. That's what that era was. But this whole Attitude Era slander, you can't sit there and crap on something that made the impact that did. Because a lot of these guys that are wrestling now, without that era, they would not have even wanted to do this. I mean, be honest. Those kids, they were probably, 5, 6, 7 to 10 years old. A lot of these people that are wrestling now, when the Attitude Era was on top. I'm talking, those guys, Ospreay, Rollins, guys like that. Without that era, they would have not even been exposed to it, because I'm pretty sure a lot of their, parents' friends and things like that exposed them to it because it was so popular. It was everywhere. It was in your face. And yes, if there was not a lot of talk of people, mocking things like cancer during those days. But honestly, I would watch Triple H have, this will be a little bit graphic. I don't really care because, stream of consciousness, let's go. I would watch Triple H mask himself as Kane and molest a corpse, over and over, rather than just watch these cringy, suicide dive, no cell fests that we have going on today. Give me that. Give me a bunch of choppy PPs, over these, super chiseled women who are trying to go out and break their bodies, trying to prove they can do as much as the men. Give me that. Give me a good bra and panties match over these women doing these Iron Man matches these days without actually, proving anything in the process. I'll take a lot of that stuff. It was safer. It drew more money, and people, and like I said, and the wrestlers were more popular. But they're trying to do things so differently now. They're even trying to, in their own little way. I'm watching these days now. They're trying to recreate the era in a safe fashion. Between what the Usos did initially by transforming from the Sivatal Usos into the day one-ish Usos, they're the ones who started this whole thing. Between Becky's new attitude, Daniel Bryan's new attitude, even down to Charlotte's new mood. Becky's, lighting people up on Twitter because, we can't get this dialogue on TV, as I've said before. Daniel Bryan finally snapping out of the yes movement. And thank God, like I've said before, the dude's always been a heel. He's never been a babyface, folks. Never. He thanked Brock Lesnar for basically suplexing the yes movement out of him. Honestly, Brock, I'll thank you for that as well. You got Charlotte mimicking Becky herself, and a lot of people were complaining about that she was trying to mock Becky, and but Becky's been off the show, so they had to put somebody in that spot to give Charlotte the same exact type of rub by making her beat two people up. So they're changing the attitude of especially SmackDown Live to, to reflect this bigger star, which is Becky right now. And honestly, that's the way it used to be done in the old days. All your heels or all your baby faces on your show pretty much represented, there's that word again, stood for what the top heel or top baby face stood for. They usually were similar people. And they're trying to do that now. They're trying to push the envelope. I see it. I see it coming. But they're also still limited by the, you know what I'm saying, by the whole public trading concept of things and the board of directors thing. There's only but so far that they can push this. But they're trying to see where they can go. And I think they're pushing their talent to a certain point to see how far they can push it as well. I just wish their talent would understand. You need new theme music. You need new ring gear and things like that. You need to change your hair. And things, I mean, the small things need to happen. I appreciate the attitude changes, but until you actually full on change the show, I mean, they got to bring pyro back. They need to change the theme music, you know, from something so, you know, pop culture-esque and things like that. You know, if you're gonna get gritty, make it gritty. Okay. And that Dean promo, you know, like I said, it may have been a start, but don't crap on an era just because, I don't know if it's an age thing or it's just because you didn't like what who it was said about it, things like that. Listen, like I said, there've been plenty of envelopes that have been pushed in this industry. They even played off the actual death of William Moody, Paul Bearer, to those of you who don't know. And much as y'all put Phil over for a lot of the work he did, I mean, you know, he's in a storyline where he uses the death of a man and his, you know, quote, ashes in an angle with the Undertaker. Trust me, death is nothing new. You know, the more real something is, the more it's always going to resonate. Always. Because we as people, that's what we need. Like I said, we need to feel it. And that whole thing about making a connection with the fans, the more real it is, the more it will always connect. Always. And sure, sometimes things can be done in bad taste, but you got to think about it this way. If bad taste equated to, you know, to you being ruined, Jerry Springer wouldn't have been on the air as long as he was. What was more crude or, you know, absurd than that show? I mean, that show was on the air for a long time. How long has Maury been on TV talking about You Are the Father and things like that? Come on, man. No matter how much you may dislike something, people like train wrecks. People rubberneck car wrecks on the highway all the time. Sucks, but it's true. Much as I try not to, even I do it sometimes. A good train wreck in wrestling sometimes, or something like that. I mean, push the button. You know, flip that lever, flip that switch, anything. Dean said the line and it got you talking. Even if it's something you don't, you don't really like. You know, Nia being all unapologetic about punching Becky in the face. Even that's resonating with a lot of you. Which I have no issue with that either. I mean, I'll get flack for this. Like, as usual, I don't care. She barely hit the girl. I mean, it wasn't even a clenched fist. You show it in slow-mo, it's going to look bad. Now, I can get a little side rant about how a lot of people are talking about how, you know, how she's unsafe and things like that. That's a monster of a woman. These girls are just so dang fragile. I'm like, here's the thing. I mean, she's a woman, she's strong and everything. And, you know, it's just like she's confident and beautiful when y'all like her. She's unsafe and, you know, ugly or fat or something like that when y'all don't like her. I mean, that's just as hypocritical as anything. And the fact that she's unapologetic about it, that's part of it. You know, think about it, that as an attitude change for her as well. Honestly, it's the same thing I would have done with Brie Bella as she kicked Liv Morgan in the face. I would have had Brie going around having people talking trash to her like, do you want to get kicked in the face? Now, here's the thing. Brie's a small woman. Nia's huge. She's bigger than me. We're probably the same height, but she's bigger than me. Think about it. She could literally go around backstage, and if one of those little cameraman dudes look at her wrong, she can just flat out look at the guy now and say, do you want to get punched in the face? And it will get the loudest pop each time. People will constantly boo her. But you know what? She honestly, because she has the pedigree that she has, and she's from the family as she is, she will actually embrace that. And a lot of you don't like that, but here's the thing. The reality of it is Becky got punched in the face and her face got broke. And Nia did it, and she ain't sorry for it. Well, she may be sorry for it real, and you know what I'm saying, real wise, kayfabe wise, she's not. Much as you want it to be real, again, as soon as you get something that's even close to being real, it upsets you, it annoys you. Again, you can't have it both ways. You got to check your attitude at the door yourself sometimes about how you're feeling about these things. Sure, it sucks that Becky's face got broke, but let's be honest here. The visual of that is now iconic. You never know. I mean, maybe, just maybe, I know it was an accident, but think about it. Bret Hart told Steve Austin before their WrestleMania match when they were laying it all out, before they knew, Bret knew the double turn was coming and everything. And both of those guys are just legit in-ring workers. You knew the match was going to be decent. But the genius of Bret Hart, he flat out told Steve, he was like, Steve, I think this will look better if you're bleeding. We don't know if that conversation took place between Nia and Becky. You never know. Maybe Nia took it too far. You never know these things. Not to sound like some weird little dirt sheet writer right here, nothing like that, starting conspiracy theories or anything like that. Because y'all know that's not what I do. But think about it, though. No matter how much the WWE wants to get rid of blood, no matter what happens, a few drops of blood can always make something iconic. Steve Austin passing out to that sharpshooter with that blood running down his face, epic. Becky standing at the top of those stairs with her arms wide open, staring down at Ronda Rousey with her arm half ripped off, will always be iconic. And again, it elevated, you know what I'm saying? The moment elevated both Nia and Becky. And those people could sit in the audience and sit on Twitter and everything, talk about, we're booing you, Nia, because you suck at your job, not because we think you're you're the heel. Whatever, guys. I mean, nobody's buying into that. And another thing, here's another hypocritical point I want to bring out too. You guys say that NXT a lot of times is the end-all be-all things. It's so good, but you guys want to send people like Nia back down to NXT. But if NXT's the A show, why not just leave her on Raw and work there? So you want to send her, the reason you want to send her to the NXT is because you know it's not the A show. NXT is what it is. So please stop with the nonsense. You contradict yourselves constantly on things like that. Honestly, Nia, keep punching people in the face. These girls are just so dang fragile. Like I said, Nia Jax is not going to get out there and do hurricane ranas and, diving moonsaults and things like that. If she did do that stuff, she'd really hurt somebody. She don't know her own strength. And the fact that she can knuckle up and knock a lot of you dudes out, that probably pisses a lot of you off more than anything. Again, I feel sorry for Becky, but at the same time, I'm glad it helped out both women. Like I said, and just be accepting of the fact that you're getting reality now. I mean, you can dislike, bringing up cancer in a storyline all you please. But hey, that shows you the value of Roman Reigns even when he's not even there. Because that's always going to be the reality of the situation. He was the top guy then. He's still the top guy now. You've seen how much the show suffers without him. And it's going to continue to. So if you have to keep talking about him to even elevate the people that are still even on the show, why the heck not use it? I'm saying, if you don't like that, I mean, I'm too bad. It's the truth. You really wouldn't have survived in the Attitude Era as a fan. Because a lot of things would have pissed you off that would have touched a few nerves. You can either check your fandom at the door or just simply check your attitude at the door. It says the buckle turns for this week, everybody. It's not the longest of episodes, but hey, you know the drill. If I feel it, I go with it. And if I don't, sometimes I have multiple topics. But like I said, I'm coming down to the wire here at school, and it's going to be a little bit tougher these days. But I'm going to try my best to at least come on here and at least give you a half hour of something. Because I know you want to hear from me from certain things. Give me a few more suggestions. I'm going to have some issues coming up with topics lately because of all the things I got to do. Graduation's coming up in about a month and a half. So wish me luck here. Everybody, as always, give a like, subscribe, share, follow on all podcasting platforms. Subscribe on YouTube. Like the page on Facebook. Leave some 5-star reviews. Give you some feedback on social media and anything like that. I'm always open to it. Feedback's always welcome. So until then, it's Adrian. That's the Buckle Turns. See you next time.